Okay, so during this course, feel free to key in your questions if you have any along the way in the chat group, right? And then I'll get to answer them. Yeah. So today I'm going to cover a bit about myself so that all of you will know how empathy has helped me in my work and how has it shaped me and what kind of impact has I've achieved throughout the years of building up empathy, right? And then I also will share why there is a need for us to cultivate empathy, who should be involved and how should we do it, and in the sense is that we will end the session with a short Q&A. Yeah. Okay, so this is me. Almost 11, is it 11? Yeah, almost 11, no, 12 years ago. First started to do pro bono work in Cambodia, where I do community building, such as toilet buildings, improving sanitation for villagers in Cambodia. So that was the first time of me traveling overseas and bringing a group of youth with me to do community service. Quite an eye-opening because there is really a need to go on the ground, get my hands dirty, eat with the community, sleep within the community, and to understand their culture, their lifestyle, their language, right? And that is where empathy is built, and we can turn empathy into action. Yeah. So coming back to Singapore, I started to realize the importance of empathy, and I started Edge Empathy. It is an outfit that runs simulated experience to bridge the gap between the marginalized community and working adults and also youth, so that they are able to understand social issues better and they are able to serve better. Yeah. And then more recently, I set up a social enterprise, right? And the social enterprise hires visually impaired chef. This is very interesting and also challenging for me because I happen to have a few visually impaired friends who are quite talented in cooking, and it's quite difficult for them to find a job in the kitchen because hardly any employers, or I would say none, would believe that a low vision chef is able to cook in a kitchen. Because if you are cooks at home, you will know that cooking involves all the 5 different senses, right? So this is a bit like a mission impossible for me. Yeah. Besides the social enterprise, in 2017, I also set up a charity, Cycling Without Age. So this is myself and my family. We use Trishaw and we bring seniors out, help them to reduce social isolation. And the youth, the cyclist is always the youth. We work with universities like SMU, NUS, and TU. We train them to be, we call them the pilots, right? So intergeneration bonding is also possible. So the Trishaw actually is a game changer because a lot of youth don't really like to volunteer with seniors, and they will find, environmental pets or kids more appealing. So this Trishaw actually changed the whole scene for volunteering with the seniors. Yeah. Okay, so what exactly is empathy, right? I think from this picture, you will see that the hands combine together and it kind of form a shape of the heart, right? Yeah, so empathy should come from the heart. Am I right? Okay, so let's do a quick poll, and then we will see what do you understand about empathy. Yeah, could we have the questions in the chat group? Okay, I just posted the questions in the chat and would like to get everyone to participate. Whether do you feel that empathy means number 1 or number 2? Okay, there is a lot of two. Okay, you say both. Okay, some of you say both and some of you say two. All right. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So I put on, let me solve some technical issues. Okay, so before I share with you the answer, let's watch a video.
Hi, Aaron. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be sound on the video, but no one can hear it, unfortunately.
Hold on.
When you share screen, you have to tick the little box in the left-hand side corner, which says share computer audio.
I did that. Hold on, let me try again. It says it needs a password. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. I'm not very sure why there is no audio, but there was audio on my end. When I wanted to share the audio, it asked for a password. Yeah, I'm so sorry for these technical issues. Okay, I think, yeah, so most of you have choose option 2, which means that to feel what the other person is feeling. And of course, there are some of you who says that it is a combination of both 1 and 2, right? And there is also a need to understand then to understand the other party on a connective basis. Yeah, so actually it is correct. It has to be both 1 and 2. Yeah, so to actually go into understanding in the sense of the same feeling with the others, it's not very easy, right? Because many times it has to be that we share the same past experience so that we can feel the same. If not, it's very difficult to actually walk in others person's shoes. Yeah. Okay, so I want to share with you a few reasons, a few key reasons why there is a need for us to practice empathy and why empathy is so much more important in this generation. Right? So if you can see the graph, the world population actually has increased quite dramatically, right, from the mid-90s to now. And actually, UN has predicted that by 2030, we will have 8.5 billion people. Right? So with more and more people on the planet, what does this mean? It probably means that there could be potentially more conflict, right? So with more potential conflict and with a reduced, space, we really need to develop more empathy for each other. Yeah. And the other thing is that I believe all of you will have know connectivity has increased over the years. I grew up in the era of having pages. I don't know whether if any of you remember this. I think the younger ones probably not. Yeah. So I carry Motorola pager when I was younger. And then it shifted to this very huge mobile phone. It is almost as hard as stone, and we can use this to hammer the crab. Right? And eventually it moved to something smaller, and it has games, it has calendars, it has everything. It might even be hearing what we are speaking. Right? Yeah. So with device getting smaller and smaller, with us getting more and more connected, it means that the speed of things are at a faster rate, right? And I believe 5G and 6, or rather I would say 6G, probably will be coming in the near future. Right? There will be a lot of information download for all of us. And we need to understand things at the speed of light. Yeah. So how is this possible if we are not grounded and if we do not take a step back and practice empathy? Yeah. Of course, there are also other reasons. I think housing policy is also one of them, where most of the younger families are living away from parents and even grandparents. So because of this, there is a shift, there's a shift in the sense of learning characters and values for the younger ones. Yeah. And of course, school has always, been the place for learning, but when it is beyond academic, which includes now learning about values and character, it is actually overwhelming the system. Right? The teachers are not exactly having enough time and bandwidth to do character and citizenship building. Yeah. So where exactly where exactly is the right environment to develop empathy and to learn empathy? Yeah. So actually, there's this old saying that it takes a whole village to raise a child, right? So I still believe that actually it takes the whole community effort in order to build and nurture empathy in every one of us. Yeah. It's just like kindness, yeah. Because people always ask me, how should we, or rather, who should start practicing empathy first? Is it the other party? Is it my parents? They should empathize with me first because I'm working, I'm in a school, I'm so stressed, I'm more stressed than them. Yeah, but actually everything starts with us. We should understand ourselves first and then understand others. And of course, it should start right at home, right? Just like kindness, we should start everything right at home first. Or for those who are staying in hostel and dormitory, it should start at where you spend most of the time first, right? And then you channel that energy back to another environment, which could be home, it could be a workplace. Yeah. And how do we start to plant seeds of empathy in ourselves, right? I remember just now I was sharing that everything is moving very fast, especially in Singapore, we're in the first world, right? We want to always be the first in almost everything in terms of like innovation and things like that. So how do we practice empathy when things are moving at such a fast pace? Right? I guess my answer to this is that we have to take a slower pace in life, because if we can slow down our pace, that is where we can start to connect with people, right? And I guess with this pandemic, all of us probably would have realized that all of us have suffered some form of social isolation, right? And with social isolation, we feel the urge to connect with our loved ones, right? And we did the connection through Zoom, through WhatsApp video, and things like that. Yeah. So the key to practicing empathy is to have a slower pace in life and to be curious, right? Because it's only when we are curious, then we will start to ask questions. Yeah. But be very mindful, curious, and being able, peeping into other people's window or doors is a totally different thing. Yeah. So I wanted to also highlight another key area of practicing empathy. You need to understand emotions. Yeah, so this is the emotion chart which you can find it when you Google for it. Yeah, you need to understand the different levels of emotion and have this emotion vocabulary. Yeah, so that you can associate what you are feeling, or you could actually associate to what you are seeing. Yeah, because with the understanding of emotion, then you can know, am I angry? Was I angry because of this argument and things like that? Should I step away and let myself cool down first? Yeah. So I want to share with you how being curious and spending quality time allows me to understand the world better. So in this picture, you see this Peranakan kuih kuih, right? Yeah, so I have been buying this kuih kuih from this auntie for a couple of weeks at a coffee shop, but never have I take the moment to slow down my pace of life and to understand her better. But there was just this one afternoon, because the weather was so hot, I was perspiring. She was also perspiring. So I parked away my mobile phone and I asked her, "Hey, auntie, how's business? The weather has been so hot." And from there we start talking, and I was also developing my curiosity. I look around at her store and I saw some newspaper articles about her being featured in newspapers, and also about her winning some cooking championship. Right. So I asked her what she does in her previous job, and and she shared with me that she was a chef, and she also does cooking classes. And from that conversation, I realized that she is a Peranakan. Yeah. Yeah. So from there, then I realized that, oh, there's one more resource that I could tap on if I want to find an external chef to teach my low vision chef Peranakan dishes. Right. So it was from that conversation that we built friendship. Right. So it might not necessarily be empathy in that sense. It might not necessarily means that I developed empathy with her and I did a service for her. Right. Yeah. But what I'm trying to illustrate is that we can build a human connection if we are more curious and if we take a slower pace in life. Yeah. Yes, and sometimes there is a need for us to be vulnerable, because in order for empathy to happen, right, we must make sure that the conversation is in a trust-based environment, right? So in order for trust to happen, sometimes we need to take the first step to be vulnerable. Yeah. Other strategies that I take also to build empathy is to have a role reversal, right? To put myself in the shoes of the others. So just now I was sharing many times that I hire low vision chef, right? So these are the 3 low vision chefs that I hire in my kitchen. Right? They might look normal to you because they are not totally blind. They don't wear the black spectacles, neither do they use the white cane, right? So to any people out there, they might seem normal to you, but actually they only have about 40% of vision left. Yeah. So this is the medical problem that they have. They have glaucoma. Their vision is blurred, right? And this is how they see the world every day. So in the kitchen, can you imagine when it's blurred, how do they navigate the environment, and how do they make sure that they don't use the wrong equipments, or they don't take the wrong condiments. So it did happen before that they took the wrong condiments, because light soy sauce and dark soy sauce is so difficult to differentiate for them, right? And also we use 2 types of oil in the kitchen. We use olive oil and we also use rice bran oil, right? But to them it's the same, it is yellow, right? Yeah. So how do I overcome this challenge with them? Yes. Yeah, sorry, it's my son. Yeah. So I was stuck for a few months, And I was thinking collectively with them, how do we solve this problem? Because if we use the wrong condiments, the outcome of the dish is going to be different too. And then diners will feel it. And if it doesn't taste well, diners will never come back. And the social enterprise will never be sustainable. Right? So we try to identify shared values. So the shared value here is we want to be productive. We want to solve the issue of low vision, and yet having the ability to identify different condiments and to be able to cook well. And of course, it's not, we didn't do this design thinking just between myself and the chef. We also brought in some engineers, right, so that we can have different, we can have a diverse of wisdom. So ta-da, this is what we have come up with after 4 to 5 months of iteration. This wasn't the first prototype. This was, I think, the third, it should be the third prototype. Right, as you can see here, this is just a very simple plastic holder. We 3D printed this, and we color code the different items. Vinegar is going to be black, sauce is going to be red, and oil is going to be purple. Right, and the words are in bigger fonts so that it facilitates them to see. And in case they would turn blind, it is tactile. It is 2D. The words are 2D, and they can feel it. Right, so. It is very interesting. We chanced upon this final prototype was because I realized that actually the chefs are still able to use mobile phone just like us. And then I was so curious. So I asked them, how come you are able to see the words on the mobile phone and you're able to navigate WhatsApp, you're able to navigate Facebook? So what is the trick that allows you to see? Right. So what they shared with me was that the font size is super big for them on the phone. And then, of course, they will use a black background so that it's easier for them to see. So these are the things that came out during our conversation when we were brainstorming for ideas. All right, so I guess I've come to almost the end of my sharing about empathy. I would like to put a stop here and to see if any one of you have any questions for me. Okay, sorry. Now then I have the time to look at the chat. Yeah, non-judgmental mindset is also correct. That is true. How do I differentiate sympathy from empathy? Right. I would guess if you don't really feel goosebump, you don't really experience goosebump, probably that is not at a sympathy, not at an empathy level yet. Right. If you are able to have some goosebump as you have a conversation with another person, and that is probably empathy. And when you feel the urge to move with them or to help them, that is where you want to turn empathy into action. Yeah. Okay, system thinking. A bit more about system thinking. So system thinking means that involving more stakeholders to think of a problem. Right? Like just now I mentioned, when we want to solve the issues in the kitchen, I don't just involve the chef, I also bring in engineers, because we need to engineer some solutions, right? So when I was thinking about that, I told myself, maybe I need to involve some engineers. They might probably be giving me another different perspective, right? Because if we were to solve problems in the kitchen, usually we don't really involve engineers. It is more of chef, the restaurant manager, which is me in this context, right? Yeah. Okay. I think Pillay is asking, how do we get staff or someone else to show empathy? I think more importantly is we talk about the staff first. In order for the staff to have empathy, right, there is a need for the leader to practice empathy and to show empathy too, right? Because remember I was saying, where should we start empathy from? It should start from home. And if you want your staff to be able to have empathy for the customers or for other colleagues, there is a need to have this policy within the organization. So empathy must be practiced within the organization, even at the management level. So the boss must embrace this first. There is a need to, spend a bit more time, especially the start of the day, to have a heart-to-heart talk with employees, to ask them how was the morning, or how was last night, what happened over the weekend. All this short conversation does help to build empathy within the organization and help each other to be a bit more curious about the other, right? I hope this answers your questions. Yeah. So how do you empathize with people who have experienced great traumatic experience? I'm not very sure what kind of traumatic experience are you mentioning about. If you're talking about, say, maybe I'll give you an example, losing of vision. So out of my 3 chefs, one of them was born low vision. The other 2 was acquired at a later stage of their life. So to them was quite traumatic, because from the ability to see to losing 60% of their vision was quite traumatic, and they wouldn't know when are they going to turn blind, right? So what I did was that, of course, I couldn't fully empathize with them because I can still see, and I'm not considered visually impaired because my spectacles is able to correct my vision. So what I did was that I found a Michelin star chef that is also disabled. I'm not very sure whether if you all know Chef Heikel from Elma. Elma is a Michelin chef. Elma is a Michelin restaurant at Gulu Park Hotel. I found him when I was watching Channel News Asia. He was awarded, I think, in 2019, the SG Enable Award. Right, so I quickly connected with him, and I told him that, hey, I need you to come and be my chef mentor. I need you to motivate them, because they have a traumatic experience just like you. And I want you to motivate them that it is possible, even though it's a different disability, but it is a quite similar experience. And yet you are able to navigate out of that traumatic experience and become a Michelin star chef. Even he is wheelchair bounded, right? So I guess it's try to find people that can relate and help others to overcome. Yeah, I guess in our life, everyone needs to have mentor, and everyone also need to be a mentor to somebody else, right? Okay, wow, there's still so many questions. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I think it's perfectly okay that we don't feel goosebumps right away, because empathy, the developing of empathy is different runway for everyone. I wouldn't say it is easy, but like I said, slow down pace of life and be curious. Yeah. Sometimes reading and watching about stories of marginalized group are more suitable to cultivate empathy via than face to face. Okay, so I guess both will work. So for me, when I do my youth development work, I also design empathy learning journeys for my students. I will get them to do a bit of research online, watch videos, read stories. I will also arrange face-to-face conversation. It can be one-to-one, or it can be small group discussion. I'm not very sure if any one of you heard about this movement called a human library. So human library is also supposed to create a face-to-face conversation and to facilitate empathy. Okay. Hold on. I think there's a few more questions. Yeah, I think Kel has a question about, not exactly a question, but probably a statement, a crucial distinction to make between sympathy and empathy. Actually, it's true. Sometimes, I mean, me managing the kitchen, right? It is true that sometimes I cannot over empathize with my crew. There is a danger. There's a danger in the sense that they might take it for granted, and they might so-called overstep and abuse that relationship. Yeah, so this is something that I can't really teach you over Zoom. How do we navigate this? But I guess sometimes it is really a thin red line between employees and employers. And then at what point in time do we want to step out of this relationship and turn it into a friend's relationship where we display empathy for what is happening back at their home, right? Yeah. Who are my mentors when starting social enterprise? The whole social sector is my mentor. Yeah, I don't really have a particular mentor that I go to, but I seek wisdom from anyone that is willing to hear me out, right? What did I learn from them? I guess perseverance. So we're kind of deviating a bit from empathy. Yeah, so perseverance in social entrepreneurship. And sometimes we just need to zoom out, and then we zoom in again. Zoom out in the sense that we need to reevaluate our ideas, because sometimes as social entrepreneurs, we love our ideas so much that we don't want to kill it. But sometimes killing it might benefit us more in the long run. Yeah. Are there any cases where empathy and the need to empathize hinders implementing issues? I think there is. I think Quan-Shen is asking, is there any cases where empathy and the need to be empathetic hinders the practicality of implementing measures? Yes, I think there is. Like I said again, this is really individual judgment call. How far you can go. So I guess there is also some ground rules that you need to establish, be at home or be in workplace. I think especially in workplace, there's a need to establish ground rules and keep reminding everyone that, although as a leader of the organization, we want to be as empathetic as possible. Let's talk about medical leave, right? So medical leave is always very limited. I think any organization, and the max is probably 21 days of medical leave. But people who hire disability will know that the productivity rate is not very high, and their MC level could potentially be higher than able people. So as an employer, how do we be more empathetic and give them compassionate leave if they would have to burst their annual leave and also their medical leave, right? So this is something that it is really a thin line, and yet not letting them feel that we are being too kind and they take things for granted. Yeah. So it's really a case-by-case basis. Yeah. Okay, so with little children, sympathy is more appropriate. I think children, not necessarily. We can also start to build empathy from young. I think children is easier to build. They're like a sponge, they can absorb things very easily, right? But of course, what do we expose them to? Probably gradually bring them to volunteer together with you. I think that would be good. Go by this 3 stage, right? You give them a teasel before the volunteering. Give them a teasel. Keep asking them. So now we are going to a nursing home. Go to the internet and find out what does a nursing home means. Let them do a bit of research, and then after that, bring them through the volunteering experience at the nursing home. And after the whole experience, immediately do a reflection if it's possible, or do the reflection within the same day, right? So you need to engineer some questions, right? You need to ask your child, right? What was the happiest moment for him or her? What was the saddest moment, and why? And is there anything that we can do about it? Would they want to come back again? What kind of experience they want for themselves and for the seniors, for example? Yeah, so it is okay to start to build empathy from young. Yeah, you might not necessarily need to bring them to see, you know, you might not necessarily need to bring them straight away to volunteer for, you know, patient with cancer or at a hospital where people are dying and things like that. They might not be able to accept that. Yeah, so start from simple ones, maybe even distribution of food, yeah, at household and things like that. Yeah. Let me see if there's any other critical questions that I should address first. Okay, so there's one statement saying that there's volunteers mainly want to join for, you know, VIA, CIP hours and refuse to commit, leaving beneficiaries feeling rather used, especially when the cause is befriending. I think the selection progress probably has to be a bit more stringent. We cannot deny the fact that for sure there is students or there's even corporate partners who are just coming to clock, you know, CIP hours or CSR. Once they have taken that and they go back to the academic or they go back to their business. Right? So we can't deny the fact that there are these people around. So can we have a more stringent selection criteria? But even if the selection is very stringent, yet I think sometimes we can't filter 100%. What could happen here is that there is a need to brief all the volunteers what is bare minimum needed of them, even if they were to leave after that transactional relationship, right? What is something that they must do in order to achieve meaningful outcome for both they themselves and also the beneficiaries. I think this is very important because beneficiaries can also feel cheated, right? If they know that they're being used and they would reject volunteers, right? So how do we manage this? I think the learning journey, that means the pre-volunteering is very important. You need to build up to a level of empathy, right, to turn those non-believers to slight believers, right, so that they could volunteer truly with their heart during the time. Yeah. So pre-volunteering training, immersion, preparation is important. Same issue in the school. Students are very empathetic. Some will do service because they have to. Yeah, so like I said, the pre-service portion is important, right, to help build the empathy level. Yeah. Okay, I guess I've addressed almost every question. Yeah, anyone who wants to, I think we have 4 more minutes. Anyone who has any other question or want to kind of, you know, unmute yourself or speak directly, I think it's possible, right, to unmute and speak directly. Yeah, I think if there is no questions, thanks everyone for your attention for the last 45 minutes. I hope I have really give you enough. I wouldn't say that is all for empathy, because if we were to dive deep, I think it's more than 45 minutes. Do a bit more reading if you want to know more how to build empathy. I think Ashoka has a lot of online information. You can just Google it. I believe you should be able to find it. Yeah, and then as I mentioned, there is really a need for us to develop that empathy, not just for kids but also for adults. I think adults is really a bit more tough for us to develop empathy, but it is possible. Why I would say adult is a bit more tough, because we have, you know, brought with us a baggage of what we have learned and experienced before, right? So I guess for adults, the strategy here is to unlearn and relearn. Yeah, be open-minded. Yeah. So see the world with a different lens first. Yeah, and I think like what some of you all mentioned, don't be judgmental first. Okay. So I thank you everyone, and I thank Ashoka for having all of us here.